Council members present. I'd like to wish congratulations to Matthew and Jessica on the birth of their new baby. So he won't be here tonight. But, we do have a quorum since all council members are present. We'll move into department reports, and we'll start with code.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is the code department report covering December of 2015. Just some of the highlights from the report include we did 54 code inspections, did 5 new store staff inspections, and wrote 35 new permits. We had 7 new businesses open and 3 closed. And major projects that are ongoing, were ongoing at the time was the beginning of Burger King and actually the completion of the Dunkin' Donuts at AT&T building. We received payments for business licenses for 2016, processed paperwork for all the alcohol licenses, printed all the invoices for 2016 business license fees, and we received and processed plans for review. Also attended an ARC planning training course, which I completed in December. City Marshal patrolled the city daily, removed 15 signs from the roadway, approved 69 repair cleanup orders, and investigated 5 tampering cases for the Utilities Department, wrote 3 citations. Historic preservation saw certificate of appropriateness request pertaining to a fence, demolition of a structure, and some posts on the front porch here on Broad Street. And we also considered the zoning text amendment with the Planning Commission, which they have recommended for approval. If you have any questions about the balance of the report, I'll be glad to answer for you.
Any questions, Patrick? Okay. Before we go any further, I need a motion to amend the agenda. I need to move some things around a little bit. What I need to do is remove under committee information, number 3, Public Works purchase of the yard spotter. And I need to add under action item, number 5, sub number 1, the purchase of a yard spotter.
You said that would be number 5.
That would be,
On 4.
actually, it will go under 5, and the executive session will move to number 6.
To add the purchase
I
of
need to add action item number 1, purchase of a yard spotter. With that deletion and addition, I need a motion to amend the agenda.
I'll make that motion.
Have a motion by Mr. Bradley.
Second.
Second by Mr. Richardson. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That amendment passes. Now we'll continue with our committee reports, moving to electric and telecom, Mr. Thompson.
Thank you, Mayor. Statistics for the electric and telecom are there in front of you. You'll see the total bill, latest total MEAG bill was $900,075.33. It sold almost 12 million kilowatt hours. Still a very, very mild month. With the fixed cost, Mr. Little, at a little over $803,000. The margins there were very, very, very slim. Telecom, I've changed that up a little bit with streaming becoming the more common way people get their entertainment. We're going to try to report to you where our data is flowing from now on. And this month, peak usage was 1.4 gigabytes to the internet tie. That is where we have a 10 gig pipe back into everybody that's located at 56 Marietta Street, with 834 megabits going to Cogent. That's pushing us beyond the 2 gig, and I'll speak to that in a minute. But I see more and more where we need to just focus on not exactly how much data is going to an individual customer. We've got that limit set in the system now. That is slowly going away, I believe, and just make sure people aren't overtaxing the system. I'll update y'all as we move forward with that change, but that's the way I'm leaning now. More and more people are using our internet for their entertainment purposes instead of just work, email, and stuff like that. So I really want to look at this over the next few months and change that policy sometime this year. CATV changes. Each one of y'all has in front of you the channel lineup that we will go to. We'll walk through it very quickly. know. A lot of these changes we're making are contractually required. Some of them are to add some value to our service. We're leaving the analog at the request of some council members for people who still have a tube TV. So that first 18 channels will be analog. They will come in on any TV that's ever been created. The second set are the HD version of the broadcast. In our new retransmission consent contracts, we're required to give that to every customer that pays for that, and many basic customers pay for that. So we're having to move that down into mini basic. That's part of what they pay for. It is part of what the broadcaster wants in front of them. The second set, a little lighter yellow, are the embedded digital channels, SD channels, that are in those broadcast channels that are also required for us to give to those customers. After you pass that, have a little lighter, mostly just white. Those are the SD cable TV channels, mostly satellite or internet delivered channels. And then you get into our HD. If you'll see, we're ending around channel 36. We're leaving space for more HDs. We're looking at adding HD Golf, HD AMC, several other HD channels that are at no cost to us right now. Those aren't on this list at this point because we would have to purchase receivers for that. But whatever HD channels I can add that are no cost to us, we're going to try to add value again to the product. We've had to add a few channels per contract. YouTube TV, Bravo, BBC America, Hallmark Movies, and MSNBC. Getting all these channels in a digital format and down below this frequency level will help not only our TV product, but it will also allow us to expand our cable internet product. Higher, faster speeds with associated higher, faster costs to the customer. This is all planned to be transitioned on March 1st. If I have no questions or complaints about this from y'all tonight, we plan on writing a letter and getting that out into the week, first of next week, to all our cable TV customers. And I've got one more item to talk about, well actually two more. Probably should have let that one to last. George Avenue, haven't got the photometric study back from Gresco, but I did some measurements. If we just light that one side, you're looking at about 10 lights at a little over $1,500 per light. That is wire, conduit, concrete, and fixture. So a little over $15,000. I'm still pushing Gresco to get me that photometric study back before next week. And I hope I'll use the spacing we use on the lights down on South Road, and that'll be sufficient, I believe. We're doing a possible connection with Time Warner Cablevision. We do some work with them for some cell tower sites. They are looking to lower that rate, and I don't want to lower that rate. But what I am willing to do, I think, is make a trade with them, get more internet capacity, have another path out, and make some type of trade with them on that. That'd be great for us. We'd have 3 paths out to the internet, to the world, and we wouldn't have to pay for it. We could just make a trade for facilities. I'll keep you posted on that as that moves forward, but I hope that actually comes to fruition. That's it, sir.
Okay.
Just a quick question.
Yes, sir.
Back on your comment on the people using the internet for entertainment purposes.
Yes, sir.
And you're about changing the policy.
We're looking at changing the policy.
Looking to change the policy. That's not to dissuade people from doing that. We don't want to.
No, we really want them to do that.
That's what I wanted
I
to
tell you-
clarify when you
Yes, sir.
change the policy because of.
No. Mr. Bradley, I see my generation probably being the last generation that watches traditional TV. The younger kids don't watch traditional TV. And I think our value that we have right now is more internet than TV. It's a good product. And I really want to get us an edge over our competitors, and that is an edge. If we can figure out how to pay for it and have it in a very efficient and cheap manner. But yes, sir, I agree. I'm glad you pointed that out.
Any other questions for Brian? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Finance, Logan?
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor. We're going to forego the traditional monthly financial report because we are working on audit right now for the end of the year, so I don't want to give you one set of numbers, but we're making all sorts of adjustments in accruals right now. But if you do have any questions about some of the specifics that I normally present to you, just let me know. So what I have for you tonight is our usual performance indicators, and this kind of goes through our taxes, general ledger items. One thing I want to bring up is local option sales tax, special purpose local option sales tax. Those have declined about 2%, but November was a little bit strange with weather, so hopefully that'll tick back up immensely in December. I've heard good reports, from downtown having a great year, and throughout the counties. Hopefully we'll see our sales tax pick up when we get that reported to you next month. Other than that, these performance indicators is all I have for you tonight. If you have any questions, do you have an answer?
Okay, thank you. Fire department.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Fire department has 232 calls for service in the month of December. We had 215 calls to the fire department. Some of them informational, and others just general information. They conducted 236.5 hours of training during December. We also just last week had the annual fire department employee recognition or awards thing. We'll have a report on that next month in March report. We did, if you go by, we got the storage building completed today. We got a little wiring to do to it and some landscaping and that type of stuff. If you get a chance to come by with us, it's going to greatly help us store stuff more efficiently. Depending on your questions.
Okay, police department.
Let me jump back 1 minute. Today, R.J. Lott was also recognized and was actually recognized by Governor Deal for his award of being the fire educator of the year. So R.J.'s done a great job for us, and he's done a great job for the city. He's gotten us a lot of recognition, from the coast all the way to Atlanta and the Gold Dome. So I've been remiss if I haven't said that. That was a good event for him. Going to the police department, we had 3,894 calls for service, had 1,562 calls into the PD, had 194 cases, conducted 118 hours of training, arrested 91 adults and 9 juveniles. We'll be doing, to remind y'all, we'll be doing the police department's awards and recognitions Thursday night at Great Oaks. Any of your questions?
Okay, thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Solid waste. Danny?
Thank you, Mayor. Our report for December, all of our tonnage trended up for the whole month, including recycling. We went up from close to 95 tons in November to almost 130 tons in December. A lot of this had to do with holiday. We had a good holiday season. Everybody did a lot of shopping, so we took care of all of that. And only other thing I do have is a snapshot of what we did for the entire year in 2015. We collected over 11,600 tons of solid waste. And this is Monroe, the city of Monroe. That's what the measurements are. And over 1,500 tons of recycling. And you can see on the chart that's 13% of a waste reduction. That's the conversion rate. That did not go into the landfill. And we have a modest goal of 25%. There were some impacts over 2015 that allowed us not to get to that number. These are our measurements because there are also a lot of businesses that did recycle, Well, we don't have those numbers, so that number could be higher than 13%. But this is what was diverted from the landfill. And I'll take any question that you might have.
Thank you, Danny. Streets and Transportation, Jeremiah.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Report for the month of December, just highlighting a few areas. We rented out the community building 6 times. Fleet Maintenance Division completed 87 work orders. Grounds crew picked up just over 1,300 pounds of litter throughout the city. Street Division performed repairs on 4 streets and patched 5 others. Those guys in the street department have been working pretty steadily on getting in compliance with our aerial obstructions from the airport, and that will be concluded next week. All of our obstructions, aerial and ground, will be taken care of by the end of next week out there, so that's a big positive for us there. Sign and Marketing Division, that number was way down, just because Steve has not been at work, but Steve Lavender will return to work Monday. That is an awesome blessing to have him coming back on his personal side as well as on behalf of this city. He does numerous things for this city, so we'll be glad to have him back in any capacity on Monday. And then wrapping up the Building Maintenance Division, completed 22 work orders for the month. I'll be glad to take any questions regarding this report or anything else.
Thank you, Jeremiah. Water, sewer, gas, and stormwater right now.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Water treatment plant, we processed 69.7 million, pretty much in line with previous months and last December. Water distribution, we had 63 work orders, 30 after-hour emergency calls. We had 30 water leak repairs. Wastewater treatment processed 85.4 million. This is going to be due to the rain we received in December, so the number's elevated. Wastewater collection, 15 work orders, and had 7 after-hour emergency calls. Natural gas division, we sold 23,253 NCFs of gas, 21 work orders, and 8 after-hour service calls. Stormwater, we had 6 after-hour emergency calls. That's going to be because of the rain. Clean and clear, 276 grades. And the utility training academy, we had 10 classes with 60 in attendance. Any questions?
Thank you very much. That ends our department reports. Now we'll move into committee information, finance.
Thank you, Mayor. We've got several items on the agenda this evening. The first one being the renewal of health insurance. Mr. Probst, and I think he's going to hand off to Mr. Blue.
Sure. Yeah, just real quickly, while we invite Mr. Blue up to the podium here. So I sent out this agenda item to you. We don't have a lot of specifics in it yet. That was just because of the timetable that we're trying to get this renewal scheduled for. Mr. Blue can probably speak to that. We hope to have some numbers firmed up by the time this reaches full council on the 9th. But we again partnered with Covenant Services Group for these renewals, and they are still getting some of those bids in now. So what we're doing is trying to get it to you on the 9th for full approval, and then we'll be setting those rates for health coverage in March, and then we'll be doing open enrollment, and then the renewal coverage begins April 1st.
Thank you, City Council. Thank you, Mayor, for having me this evening. As Logan did say, we're working on it. I was the guy who drew the stick to come and tell you about the health insurance until it's ready. So the good news is, in overall cost, you all will see a decrease this year. Something I don't get to deliver very often. As a matter of fact, I don't deliver ever in light of our current health care reform and our current situation. From a health insurance perspective, so the good news is there's a decrease. There is potential for even more of a decrease depending upon some negotiations with other carriers and so forth, you will see some alternatives in your paperwork. One thing I will bring to light is, as I skip through, is there just 2 current claimants on the insurance that could adjust these rates. So be aware, until things are final, they are not final. So again, 4.76%, very much attributed to what you all are doing from a health and wellness perspective and the on-site clinic. As I was telling Logan in the meetings a week or 2 ago, the great thing is you guys are on the cutting edge for a city of your size. I can tell you that because we know. Both statistically and just who we work with, you guys are on the cutting edge. Your on-site clinic is performing really well. The wellness piece is doing a phenomenal job. And you're seeing decreases because of that implementation of those programs. Just be aware of those 2 claimants. I tell you those. Just so, again, because whatever comes back on those folks medically, obviously I can't get into that here for multiple purposes. But just be aware that can affect what we're looking at today or what you all have as an exhibit in front of you all. I'll be glad to take questions. It's that easy. Again, you'll have a more detailed report come on the 9th with another good-looking gentleman, similar to what I look like. But feel free to ask questions now. I can keep it high level for sure.
I guess just the one question of why things not ready this week.
Sure. So what happens in a situation like this is there's a negotiation process, as well as we have to have claims to send out. So the claims reports, by the time we got them out to the carriers, and now they're shopping the process and come back, we can't do anything until the incumbent gives us their information, which you'll see is HCC. HCC just got us the information very recently. So those guys had to kind of scratch and crawl and climb to get this information back. Historically, we're about a week behind. They are, from what we've seen. So it's not too bad. It's not outside the norm, but hopefully that answers a little bit. If there's nothing else, am I free to go into? Okay, sorry, my fault.
Is there any further discussion on the health insurance renewal?
Am I right, Mr. Chair? We don't need to take any action tonight.
We just need you to approve the insurance renewal to go before the full council on the 9th, whereby we will have the final rates locked in.
So we're sending it to the council with a recommendation to go to HCC, subject to the rate.
Subject to the final rates.
Subject to final rates, is that correct?
Do we think that we'll have this before,
Before the 9th?
yes,
Yes.
I'd like for the council to look at it
Sure.
before they actually vote on it.
Again, this is getting passed along to me, so I may stick foot a little bit in mouth here, but they are saying as soon as they have it, you all will have it within minutes thereof. And that should be within the next few days.
So the only thing that we could get better than the 4.76 rate reduction from other carriers, you think?
Yes, that is the intended goal.
Right.
So we won't vote on the carrier until next week.
Mhm.
Anyway.
Correct.
This isn't approving.
Mm-mm.
anything.
I think that's the more information only, isn't it, at this point?
I really don't know if we need to take any action.
All right. Move along to the next item, and you're handling it too, aren't you?
I am today.
Okay.
This is a lot easier. You'll see a second exhibit in front of you, black and white. It's pretty simple. Through negotiations last year, I think some of you all may remember who were on the council last year, we were able to negotiate rate guarantees, meaning those carriers would lock in rates for multiple years. And every carrier you see in those line items, from dental to supplemental life insurance, lock those rates in. So, for once in my life, I get to come in and say there is no rate increases. As a matter of fact, they're all zeroed out this year. It was a pretty easy renewal process because of those already locked in contracts in place. So I'm, again, more than happy to answer any questions that the council may have.
Okay, we do need, if there's no discussion, we do need to take and recommend this to full council next Tuesday. I'll entertain entertain a motion.
I'll make that motion, Chair, that we recommend these, the dental plans and the other ancillary plans, the dental and vision, invasive life, and supplemental life, and accident, and short-term disability, and long-term disability, as presented to the full council.
Second.
I have a motion second. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Yeah, it passes. Recommending the ancillary insurance renewal to full council next week.
Thank you all.
Okay, the next item is the renewal for property casualty and workers' comp. That'll be Mr. Seville.
Go get an introduction or anything? I've been here a while. Okay, everybody has the sheet, spreadsheet, and this is really about the same as last year. There's the premiums stayed flat. There's actually a little rate reduction because we increased the number of vehicles by 8, combined vehicles and trailers. Traded out a lot of vehicles and bought a lot of new ones, and the net difference was an increase of 8 vehicles. And then the down under the inland marine section, about 2/3 of the way down there, you'll see that we bought some equipment, and that went up about $140,000. And then the down near the bottom, there's a little line there that says cyber liability. If you see that, it's about the next to last section. And the cyber liability, we'll agree. We had our talk about the internet and the exposures, and this has become, if you remember 10 years ago, we were talking about this thing called employment practices liability that nobody had, and it's become the dominant claims generator in the industry now. And I think you'll see that same thing start to happen with cyber liability. And we already hear about the Blue Cross breach and the Target breach and the things like that. So what we did this year was we changed the cyber liability to a broader form. The form we had was sort of an introductory form that came into the industry, and it indemnified us. So if we had a breach, we would go do whatever we needed to do, and then it would reimburse us. And the new form steps in and says, don't say anything, don't do anything, we'll take over. And it's sort of like you saw with the Target breach, the companies stepped in and they arranged for the protection for everybody that was breached and so forth. So this is, I think, an important coverage. And the good part about it is that as this has matured in the industry, the limits have stayed about the same, broadened a little bit, and the deductibles have dropped. So we had $15,000 last year, and it's down to $1,000 this year. So that's a lot of talk about a very small line on there, but I think it's worth noting that that we have some of those exposures, especially with our people logging in to pay bills and things on the internet. So at the end of the day, the premium went up about $700, and the exposures, the increase in the exposures was more than that. So we had a net rate decrease to keep it where it is. Any questions?
Who's going to present the workers' comp piece?
You want me to touch on that? I don't. The GMA does that directly, but I told Logan I'd review it so we could just get an idea. It's already renewed. It renewed January 1st, so we don't have a decision to make. But the GMA said they increased it. It went from 81,000 to 95,000, which percentage-wise is a lot, but dollar-wise is, it's
is not that much. And their reasoning was that our claims experience was a lot worse, and they had more claims experience since they'd been on it a couple of years to evaluate it. I think this is the third year that they've done it since we were self-insured before. Regardless of the increase, I think it's still it's a good deal. With the self-insurance, our at this same price, our retention was $500,000. So I don't find myself defending the GMA a lot, but in this case, we're at $250,000 retention in a deductible form. So it would be a lot higher than this if you were out in the self-insured marketplace right now. As far as claims are concerned, like Joe was saying, we can't go into the individual statistics, but we've had several over 100,000 that have developed in the last couple of years, and we went for a long time. We didn't have hardly any that would have approached that, and part of that is the increased cost of health care, and part of it is I mean, we've got good safety programs in place, and I think those have addressed that side. We can always expand them and do better with the safety programs, but these guys have done a great job of really controlling that exposure, and I think we're from a budget standpoint. Logan, have you looked at the impact on the budget that deductibles have had? I threw you a curve there, I'm sorry.
Yeah, from Marcia and I were talking about this, it's not been huge.
Okay. Okay.
It's all about claim history, basically.
Yeah, if anything, that's where it will be impacted, was our deductible. Okay. Any questions about the work comp? I got the losses in front of me and the history. And one thing we do need to do next year is maybe get out in front on it.
It's locked in November, is that correct?
Yeah, it's a January 1st, so it'll go till next year, and probably in November we need to address it. If we can make a note of that. Okay.
So what I'm hearing now, we need a motion to recommend the property casualty renewal. Workers' comp's already been renewed for this year.
Right.
So
I'll offer a motion to renew the property and casualty.
Second.
okay, motion second, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We'll recommend that to full council next Tuesday.
Okay, thank you.
Last item on the agenda this evening is call center positions. Logan, you gonna take that?
I'll take that one, thank you. So you have before you an agenda item to reallocate some positions for the call center. And what we're trying to do is trying to make it more effective and efficient for our customer service day in and day out. And I've given you some data there. November calls, when we started this call center, we had 6,671. Of those, we had 295 abandoned, about 4.42%. December, we had 7,109 calls. 422 of those were abandoned, for 5.94%. But what we're seeing is we're having to rotate positions around, utilizing some of Brian's guys from cable TV to fill the slots. And that's very inefficient to his operation, very inefficient to the call center and customer services operation, because we're also rotating the customer service representatives around to have this staff. So everybody's not always on the same page. When there's absences, that just creates a hardship on either of our staff. So what we're trying to do is come up with a solution that's not going to cost the city any more money, but utilizing our existing resources. We have 2 seasonal workers in the budget at $12,000 apiece, okay? That will account for 1 position, basically. And then we also have a replacement position for a part-time worker that has since retired from the city. You put those 2 together, along with 1 other vacant position that was already in the budget and will soon be filled, and we'll be pretty much fully staffed in that call center without actually costing us any more money in this budget. So I put all of those positions together, that'll give us a little over $87,000 available, and the replacement positions are projected to cost about $78,000. That's the summary for what we're trying to do. If you have any more specific questions about this, I'll be happy to try to answer those for you.
How many total jobs are you trying to replace?
To replace, right here, we've got 1 vacant, okay? So somebody left a couple years ago, and we are just now refilling that position. And it's going to be a dedicated call center position where they're there each and every day, and they know the ins and outs of the call center, okay? So then we're going to have another position, which is what I'm asking you for. This will be number 2 and 3 here. So number 2 will be created from the 2 seasonal positions, which have traditionally been filled by high school students, but, you know, we're not really utilizing that money effectively. So, you know, they're in, they work for a few months, and they're out. But what we really need is somebody who's just going to be dedicated in that call center day in and day out. So that's your second. The third one is going to be created from a previously filled part-time position. Okay, so this part-time position, you can see there the salary in the budget's $30,443. That's going to be replaced with a position of $26,208. So that'll get us basically 3 positions. I'm only asking you for 2 because the first one's already included in the budget.
What will be the hours of the call center?
The call center that will be staffing with our city employees will be during regular business hours. And we have an after-hours call center that those calls roll to. Those are going to be starting next week or so, is that right?
We had planned on it, as I sent y'all the email out with the new contractor after hours, we planned on starting last night. There was a software issue on his side, and he pulled the plug on that. He didn't want there to be an issue or a problem. He's working with his vendor to get that squared away. Basically, what we're trying to do is marry his software with our software, and there was a little hiccup. So yeah, we'll roll over to this new dedicated after hours during regular business hours. And Logan's correct. My guys will still be there as a elevation or an escalation on telecom type problems. But right now, I've got some guys that are better utilized doing telecom type work that are sitting there answering the phone.
Once this is people hired and trained, what will the staffing be in the call center at that time?
So
assuming everybody's here.
We'll have 3 dedicated call center folks, right? And then we'll have a rotation of just 1 additional person from the customer service area that you see out front here, rather than just rotating that full staff all the time. So they'll take their turn in the call center, but this just allows more people to be fully dedicated to being in the call center and not having to worry about what's out front here and then bouncing back into the call center. Brian's guys having to worry about cable TV issues and then bouncing back to the call center. Just getting to a higher level of customer service that I know you've all discussed before.
It's caused some confusion and some missteps along the way, especially if you've got a guy, especially on my side, is working on something on the telecom side, and he starts taking a phone call. Well, he might miss a step in what he needs to do inside our issue track system. I think Logan's correct. The dedicated people that are in there all day long is much, much better. And as we get this other after-hours call center that is all fully dedicated to utilities, it's through Electric Cities. Several cities all over the state of Marietta, Cartersville, Douglas, several cities are using this company, and they are utility-based call center. Instead of what we're using now is basically an after-hours center for a doctor's office. And they don't have a utilities background.
You said we'd have 3 people, and this is talking about putting 3 people, so we don't have any dedicated people today?
Not dedicated, we're just using a constant
Okay,
rotation of
that's fine.
employees.
And you talked about the abandoned rate, bringing in the dedicated people, have you determined what the target abandoned rate needs to be?
Well, we're hoping for 0. That's always your goal, but you're never going to have that. We're hoping maybe 1 to 2%.
Some of those calls are our guys calling in. We're trying to figure out a way to identify them. Our guys are calling in. If it rings more than twice, they'll hang up. So those are an abandoned call. Mike, I think, has got a way to figure out how to ID those calls. And I think if you kick those out, you can push it close to 1 or 2%.
And you see I've laid out
That's the
there.
plan.
I would have cautioned you not to get it too much less than 2%. Because then you've got people sitting on their way to the college, of course.
Absolutely. Right.
Now, there are other jobs they can do besides just sit there and answer the phone.
Who's gonna function as the call center supervisor?
That's Beth Thompson. She's currently over it, and she'll continue with that.
Do you know the time frame you're looking to hire these 3 people?
Well, the first one, the vacant position that I've got highlighted in green there, that one's ready to go. We're about ready to put them in place. The rest of them can probably be hired fairly quickly because we had several qualified applicants apply for this first one that we could probably choose from that pool. So I would say, within the next month, we can have that fully operational.
Are we gonna try to do any period of formal training?
They get trained up right off the bat. They go through Brian's guys, and they
Mike sets them down with the phone system and with our associated telecom stuff. Beth does the billing system side of it. It's a pretty quick process. Now, I'm not going to say you're going to teach them in 2 or 3 days to be an expert with the phone system, the billing system, and the telecom system, but you can get somebody up and running in a week. And then you've got some ongoing stuff you need to do to keep them up to date. Rodney will especially have to train them on the gas side. That's a couple of day class that everybody that answers the phone for gas will have to go to a state mandate, but we certainly do that down at Newville.
And what we found is the call center folks do a much better job once they get in that routine of being there, more often, day in and day out. So if you have somebody who spends a whole week in there, they're definitely more efficient and responsive to our customers. And I bring this before you. I don't like to increase the size of our government any more than we have to. So I fully realize, we have limited resources, and that's why I'm trying to squeeze all of this into our existing budget and not go out and spend any more money than we have to.
Let me ask you a quick question. I noticed you said that the green, the one at the top, was already ready to hire.
Already hired, right?
How,
It's, interviews in process. We're ready to go on that one.
but then you turned around and said we could hire the other ones from the resume that you already have.
Right.
Would you not post those other jobs?
We will post them, but, we have basically a good pool of folks that we can draw from.
Mr. Chairman, I think it's a great idea to get dedicated people to call center. We need that desperately. So I would move approval of these combinings and to actually stay within the current budget. To create the position, stay within the current budget.
Have a motion, have a second.
Second.
Motion and second, all in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed? We recommend the full council next week. That concludes the Finance Committee's agenda this evening, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Report.
Mr. Mayor, we got Mr. Fussell here tonight. If he wants to give us a briefing, he's welcome to. I was not at the January 12th meeting, so I appreciate him filling us in.
Mr. Mayor, Council, the airport is doing exactly what it was designed to do. We were out there this past weekend. I saw 2 planes come in from out of state. They are habitual stopovers now in Monroe, which is one of them. It was his 3rd time there. So this is beginning to be a habit. So the airport is doing the community development work that it was designed to do. We also had a very high dollar corporate aircraft land there I guess it's been about 30 days ago now, but looking for Jet A fuel, and Chris is working on helping us get everything that we need for the Jet A truck. That's still an ongoing situation. But Jeremiah has, as you heard this evening, has done the obstacle clearance. We're down to one obstacle, and less than a year ago it was over 50. So things have gone really, really well in that area. So those things will be completed shortly. We can apply for our approaches. In our January meeting, we discussed all of the improvements that are in the budget for this coming year, which includes Mr. Richardson building hangars, as you and I have discussed multiple times. So all of those things are in progress. The Airport Commission is still moving forward. We're looking for plans. We're trying to finalize within the next few months our 5-year plan for the airport, so there'll be some new development ideas that we'll be talking about, but I'm open to any questions that you might have.
When's your next meeting? Next week?
Next week, yes, sir. Wednesday. 11 o'clock. And all council members and mayor, you're always welcome at our commission meetings.
How are the fuel sales going?
I'm glad you asked that question. We're kind of in the beach chair rental business. When it's cloudy and rainy on the beach, you don't rent a lot of beach chairs. But in the past 60 days, we've sold 5,000 gallons of fuel. So I'm very happy with that. And it is these people that are beginning to learn that there's good fuel and good pricing in Monroe, Georgia. One of the gentlemen that I was talking about, he's from Maryland, has a home in Florida, so it's a perfect stopover for him. It's about halfway for his trip, and that word is beginning to get out. We said when we started this it would be a growth proposition, and that is holding to be true. So our tanks are down to about 5,000 gallons, so within the next month or so we'll be back to with some good flying weather, we'll be back to say it's time to top them off again. Anything else?
I might point out yesterday I visited with the Rotary Club, and Mr. Etheridge
yes.
From the Airport Commission gave a program for Rotary and did an excellent job, and it was interesting to hear many of the business people from Monroe making comments afterwards of the optimism with what was going on at the airport.
Well, we certainly want to encourage the business community. That's what this is all about. And everything that we are seeing happen out there is what we projected. And again, with the continued support of the council and mayor, we hope to make this a really first-class airport.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Have you
Nothing else.
Okay. Let's see, item 4, utilities.
Thank you, Mayor. First item is the sanitary survey results. Mr. Millbrook.
Thank you, Mr. Wood. I want to share with y'all our results from our sanitary survey we had back in September of 2015. This is where EPD comes in and does an extensive research. They look all into our records. It's a very detailed inspection. It's about a week-long process. This takes place every 3 years, like I said. We get visited every year, but every 3 years we get this comprehensive inspection. You can see we got an outstanding performance this year, 95.7%. There was only, turn up to page 5, there's only a few deficiencies. 6 actually, 2, 3, 5, and 6 was taken care of before he left on the last day of the inspection. On the first one, there was a recommendation, or he did say that we were not adequately staffed on our distribution system. For a system our size, 190 miles of water main, we have five servicemen and one foreman. With recent mandates coming down from the state for leak investigation, or leak detection, meter testing, and all these new requirements, we just don't have the expertise to do those type of things. We knew this was coming. We knew that they were going to ask us to add additional staff. At the time, we didn't know how many, so we did add one position to the budget this year for water distribution. As you can see, when the report came in, it's asking for additional. So we'll do the one this year. I'll probably come back next year and ask for another guy. We'll wait and see how things go this year, what we can accomplish. The meter testing and the leak detection can be done with contractors if we choose to do that. We're looking at some quotes now to see what that looks like, and I'll let you know as those come available. Just want to share this information with you.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I think we need to commend Mr. Middlebrooks. Going through this survey, this is an extremely exhaustive operational audit of the department, probably more so than most of us had in businesses or in the government.
Well,
where a score of 75 would be considered satisfactory performance, and anything over 90 would be outstanding performance. And Mr. Middlebrooks' department came in at a 95.
95.7 is pretty good.
95.7. That's outstanding. Thank you. And be sure to tell your staff thank you.
We will. Those guys work really hard to prepare for these inspections. So it's very uncomfortable because they're walking around. Each operator has a day with them. It's a little nerve-wracking.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you.
Now, the approval for this out-of-state travel for the SGA conference, you want to take that?
Yes, that's mine as well. This is asking for permission to send two guys to the 14th Annual Southern Gas Association Spring Conference. It's in Columbia, South Carolina. This is a conference that we attend each year with GUDA. We have a booth there for our training center. And we've also been asked to do a training session on that Monday. So there'll be two guys going down. The only expense that we'll have will be their rooms and their per diems for their meals.
What do you estimate the cost of this to be?
It won't be over $1,200.
And we have done this in the past, haven't we?
Sorry.
We've done this conference in the past. Yeah. Are there any other questions for Mr. Middlebrooks? Is there a motion to approve the out-of-state travel for the SGA conference?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. We will recommend that to full council. Thank you, Rodney. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Public safety, have anything?
Mayor, Public Safety does not have anything on the agenda tonight.
Okay, economic development.
I have one report from Ms. Krause. She could not be here tonight. And we have, let me get to her. GICH retreat is going to be February 23rd and 24th in Dublin, Georgia. 15 people from Monroe will be attending from our housing team. The pre-retreat meeting was held last week and it went really well, and we're looking forward to thinking strategically about housing and growth in the city moving forward. I attended my first meeting with them, and it was very enlightening to hear all of the things that we have before us. Nothing final at this point, but there's some upcoming events and news that we will share within the month to come.
These are upcoming discussions for next week. Item 1, the annexation of 1401 Alcovey Street. Patrick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Council members, this is the de-annexation request by the Catholic Church and the Archbishop Gregory, or Wilton Gregory. It's petition number 15-00383. And again, they're just requesting to be de-annexed from the city. They have 13.6 acres out on Alcovey Street. And if you have any questions about the request, I'll be glad to try and answer them. Let me just add this. The Code Enforcement staff recommendation is for approval. We also have the Planning and Zoning Commission's recommendation for approval and the resolution from the county allowing for the de-annexation should we move forward with it.
So everything's set?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any questions on that one? Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Item 2 is the application for beer and wine package sales to All Star. And item 3 is a request from Monroe Walton Properties Conditional Development Agreement. That's Brian touched on that a little bit with the sidewalks and street lights. Anybody have any more comments or anything to talk about that any further? Okay. Item 4 will have the second reading of the zoning ordinance code text amendments. Next week we'll have the first reading of the speed zone ordinance. We'll have a resolution for the multi-jurisdictional hazard mitigation plan. And we'll have a discussion tonight is we have a discussion, council member added this on for personnel policy, political activity. We'll just open that up to council.
That's all right.
Any questions,
My
comments?
This isn't working right.
Mr. Mayor, I had a lot of calls about how were we going to proceed with Chief Glass actually running for office. And the concern was the city going to actually pay him while he's campaigning on city time? And I actually went to Mr. Matthew just to try to get some type of clarification as to how this process actually worked. So I'm trying to actually find out what steps or how did this actually work as far as if you announce that you're going to run, would it be something that you could, would you have to step down, or would you be able to actually keep your job and go ahead and run for the office? That's some clarification that I'm trying to get for a few people that actually was concerned about the issue.
I think it's my understanding, and Paul will correct me if I'm wrong, that I believe when the chief actually qualifies, he's going to take some time off with the city so he can campaign.
So basically, once he qualifies, then he would actually take the leave of absence.
He can't campaign on city time.
And I think, we need to point out that that's just not one position. That's any employee, the way our personnel policy reads.
Well, and we're not actually pinpointing one certain employee right now because where we'd have to be in executive session.
Exactly.
This is citywide. Any city employee that wants to run for office, they cannot campaign on city time. And I think that's a state law, or?
Well, it would violate the Hatch Act, right?
Yes.
If that were occurring.
They looked into that, and
Or that's the percentage of federal money.
Not entirely. I don't want to comment to that. The Hatch Act was actually significantly rewritten in 2012 that does allow city and state and various municipal employees to continue to maintain employment while running for various political positions, whether it be a local position or even potentially running for someone as high as Congress. So the Hatch Act was significantly rewritten in 2012. that would allow such a scenario to occur where an employee of either a municipal, city, or even a county or a school board in certain circumstances can continue to maintain employment while running for those positions. Certainly our personnel policies and procedures manual, although I haven't reviewed it specifically, I know does address the issue of conducting personal business and or endorsing political candidates, whether it be yourself or someone else, while on city time. So, of course, I think it would be the purview of the city administrator to ensure that all employees are always abiding by all personnel policies and procedures, all of our personnel policies and procedures, including that specific issue. So if an individual were running for an office, whether it be a local office or even a statewide office, that is a city employee, that employee would be allowed to do so under our current personnel policies and procedures. But of course, such activities and efforts would need to be conducted while not on the job, while on city time. So whether a leave of absence is instituted, whether vacation time is taken, or whether, as many people do, campaigning takes place after business hours when they're not physically on the job or working, those things under our current personnel policies and procedures could be conducted and not be violative of the Hatch Act or any other provisions of law that our office is aware of.
So with all that said, there are no current policies or procedures or laws that would require a person to leave their office during the campaign. It would only be required they could not campaign during working hours or could not use any city resources for selection.
That's correct.
I am not aware of any. Prior to the Hatch Act 2012, I believe it's called the Hatch Act Modernization Act 2012, that was a different answer. But since the Hatch Act has been essentially rewritten for lack of a better term, for small town governments, counties, school boards, cities, those employees are able to maintain their jobs and still seek public office. Our policies, personnel policies and procedures manual, although I'm not intimately familiar with every single one based upon my discussions with Mr. Chansey and his review of them, I am not aware of any current City of Monroe policy that would prevent a city employee from seeking public office through either a general or a primary election process.
Well, let me ask this question. Once he qualified, could he still just keep the job? So he don't have to step down at all. From what you're telling me is he can qualify and still hold his job.
Yes, that is correct. There is no City of Monroe personnel policy no City of Monroe personnel policy that I'm aware of that would prohibit it. And the Hatch Act update from 2012, as a result of that Modernization Act, the Hatch Act no longer prohibits it. Prior to 2012, that would be a different answer.
Any other questions or comments? Okay. That was for information. So we'll move into section 5, item 1. This is an action item, so we will be taking a vote on this. It is purchase of a yard spotter. And
let me bring that one up to start with, Mr. Mayor. The Public Works Committee became aware between meetings, of the need for obtaining an additional piece of equipment called a yard spotter. And this is, I'm going to give you a little brief on it, then we'll let Danny follow up and answer the detailed questions and things. But basically, this is a piece of equipment that is used to move the trailers and after people dump stuff out there at the transfer station and get it around. We had two, we only have one operation at this time, and the other one is beyond repair, so we need to purchase another one. To buy one of these new is excess of $100,000, which we have chosen not to do in the past, but we've gotten great service out of buying used ones. And we had an opportunity to come about to purchase a used one. Our mechanics have gone and inspected it, and it's local over in Lawrenceville, and found it to be a real viable thing for less than half the cost of what a new one would be. We needed to get some discussion on this and get it to move ahead, and the reason it's on action item tonight. So we had a discussion of this through email with the committee. The committee then, agreed that this was a good thing for what we need to do through the discussion, and we wanted to bring it to the full council tonight. So if you look back on your agenda where it would have been earlier, you can see all the paperwork and details on it. The actual cost of it is $48,500. There are pictures and bids and everything that were attached, but we just felt like this was an opportunity to get this one that we need to take advantage of, so therefore we're bringing it to the council for approval this evening. You got more you want to add to that at this time?
Pretty much you summed it up. Like I said, it's a time-sensitive purchase. Vendor sales on a first-come, first-served basis, and it could be gone if we don't act on it.
So from the committee to the council, I'm making a motion that we purchase this piece of equipment per the specs that are in your paperwork.
We have a motion by Mr. Bradley to purchase the yard spotter at $48,500.
Second.
Second by Mr. Adcock. Any discussion?
My only question, and I'm all for buying it, has finance looked at it? How will this fit into the current year's budget?
Part of your CIP. Yes, part of CIP.
I beg pardon?
CIP.
CIP.
Okay.
It was put in.
Okay, any more? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes. This will end our regular meeting, but we do have a need for an executive session, so I need a motion to go into executive session.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Purvis, second by Mr. Adcock. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Any opposed? We'll take a couple minute break and go into